There is a radio message from the Belgian Grand Prix that never made the television feed. George Russell screaming that his battery was gone, that he had nothing left down the Kemmel Straight, seconds before Lewis Hamilton arrived on his outside. The cameras showed a clean racing incident and a 5-second penalty. What the cameras muted tells a completely different story, because by the time these two touched at Les Combs, one of them was already driving a car that had quietly betrayed him. So what did that message say? And why did the world feed leave it out? On board, you can see Russell throwing his hands up inside the cockpit. You can see the frustration. You just cannot hear it. The audio is gone. It stays gone all the way through the international broadcast, through the replays, through the post-race analysis. Millions of people watch the same incident and never once hear the driver at the center of it tell everyone what really happened to his car. The message only surfaces later, pulled from German television coverage that carried the audio the main feed did not. And in it, Russell is not complaining about being overtaken. He is furious about the battery. He is asking what happened to the state of charge down the straight, saying he had no battery, calling it unacceptable. That is not a driver who made a mistake and got angry about it. This is a driver telling his team that his car stopped working at the worst possible moment, and that the crash was the result, not the cause. Hold on to that, because everything about how this incident gets judged depends on it. Spa always rewards the car that can deploy its energy at the right time. The Kemmel Straight is the single most important stretch of road on the calendar for exactly that reason. It is long, it is flat out, and whoever has the most electrical power to throw down it controls the fight into the corner at the end. To understand how badly that hurts, you have to understand what the battery does on a modern car. All the way around the lap, the car is harvesting energy under braking, storing it, and then firing it back out as raw acceleration on the straights. It is a huge slice of the total power. Take it away and the driver is not nursing a small deficit. He is flat out with a chunk of his engine missing, watching healthy cars sail past like he is standing still. And there is no worse place on the calendar for this to happen than Spa. Most circuits have one long straight where deployment matters. Spa effectively has two, stacked back to back, split only by the climb through Eau Rouge. A car that is short on energy here does not lose a tenth. It bleeds time on every full throttle stretch, lap after lap. And on the opening lap, it does it while surrounded by 20 cars fighting for the same road. Russell arrives at that corner as the slowest thing on the track, and he knows precisely why. Go back to the start of the lap, and it gets worse. Russell makes a clean getaway from third on the grid. He is exactly where Mercedes wants him. Then, somewhere around the first corner, the battery simply refuses to recharge. By the time he reaches the top of Eau Rouge, one of the most demanding pieces of tarmac in the world, he is sitting at 0%. No deployment, nothing to give. He crests the hill flat out and has nothing underneath him. That is the moment the race is decided, and it happens long before anyone touches. A modern Formula One car without its electrical deployment is not a slightly slower car. It is a sitting target. Russell describes getting swamped. 3 cars suddenly around him where there should have been clear air. He goes from defending a strong position to fighting for his life in the space of a few seconds, and none of it is showing up on the broadcast. The graphics say he is fourth. The reality is that he is already out of the fight. Now watch what that does to the corner everyone actually saw. Coming into Les Combs, Russell is on the outside, Hamilton on the inside. Russell has enough of the corner to be entitled to his room. Hamilton commits to the move because the gap is there, because Russell is not accelerating the way a healthy car should. From the Ferrari, Hamilton can see it. He says himself that George looked like he had lost power, that he swung around the outside, and then there was a small coming together. He is describing a car that was already wounded. Then Hamilton loses the front end. The Ferrari washes wide under load, the front tires give up, and despite him turning in to try to save it, the left front clips the right side of Russell's Mercedes. Russell spins into the gravel. His race is over. The safety car comes out, and the story, as far as the cameras are concerned, is finished. A first lap tangle, a spin, a penalty to follow. Except the part everyone missed is the reason the 2 cars were ever that close in the first place. If Russell has his battery, he has gone down the straight, defending from the front, nowhere near Hamilton's line. The collision does not exist. The only reason these two arrive at the same point at the same time is that one of them has been robbed of the tool that would have kept them apart. Pay attention to that next detail, because it explains everything about why the ruling feels wrong to so many people. The stewards look at the moment of contact. They rule that Hamilton is at fault, and they hand him a 5-second penalty, announced on lap 10 and served during a virtual safety car later in the race. On the surface, fine. He lost the front axle. He failed to keep enough separation. Contact followed. But read the actual wording of their own decision and something stops adding up. Their document says Russell had established enough overlap to be entitled to racing room. Fair. But it also says Hamilton acknowledged Russell was there. It says Hamilton tried to leave appropriate room. It says he made a genuine attempt to avoid the contact. It says the collision came from a loss of front grip rather than an aggressive or deliberate move. It even notes that this all happened on the opening lap, where grip is low and the field is compressed. The stewards list nearly every single hallmark of a plain racing incident. And then they conclude that Hamilton was wholly at fault. Read that again slowly. Every mitigating factor is written down, acknowledged, and then set aside. The punishment lands anyway. They soften it from the usual 10 seconds down to 5, and they add no penalty points, which is its own quiet admission that this was never a reckless move. But softening a penalty is not the same as questioning whether it should exist. And that is the contradiction running through this whole weekend. It is about to get a lot harder to defend, because 8 laps later, at the exact same corner, it happens again. Charles Leclerc makes contact with Oscar Piastri going into Les Combes. Piastri picks up floor damage. It is the same piece of track, the same kind of first lap style squeeze, the same story of one car unable to complete a move around another. And the stewards look at it and decide there is nothing to see, no penalty, no investigation worth acting on. Piastri wants at minimum a warning flag, and does not even get that. So which is it? If the Leclerc incident is just racing, then how is the Hamilton incident worth a penalty when Hamilton, unlike anyone else, was actively trying to avoid it and got caught out by a mechanical loss of grip? And if the Hamilton incident deserves punishment, then why does an almost identical clash at the same corner draw a shrug? This is where things stop being funny, because the whole point of stewarding is that the same action gets the same answer. At Spa, on the same afternoon, at the same corner, it did not. Ferrari sees it immediately. Fred Vasseur calls the penalty mega harsh. He points out that Russell had plenty of space on the left and was never anywhere near the wall, so there was room for the two of them if the grip had held. But his stronger argument is not about that single corner at all. It is about the season. Every first lap incident this year, he argues, has been waved through as a racing incident. Every one. This is the year of leniency on lap 1, right up until the moment it involved his driver. That is not an emotional complaint. He is pointing at a pattern and asking why it suddenly broke. And the pattern matters, because first lap incidents are supposed to get more room, not less. On lap 1, tyres are cold, fuel loads are at their heaviest, the cars are bunched together, and the air is dirty. Stewards have understood this for years and judged accordingly. So when one lap 1 incident gets the standard treatment and another gets a penalty, the paddock notices. The question of consistency does not go away. If anything, it gets louder the more people look at it. By the time the checkered flag falls, the numbers on Hamilton's side of the story are almost hard to believe, because the contact cost him far more than track position. It tore away the front left section of his Ferrari floor. And if you have watched this era of Formula 1 at all, you know that losing part of the floor is close to the worst damage a car can take. The floor is where these cars make most of their downforce. The air travels underneath the chassis and gets sealed to the track, and that seal is what glues the car to the road through fast corners. Rip a section of it away and that seal breaks. The air spills out where it should be trapped. The grip vanishes in every medium and high-speed corner, which at Spa is most of the lap. Hamilton says he lost a massive amount of downforce, something in the region of 50 points of it. That is not a cosmetic scrape. It is a car fighting itself for the rest of the afternoon. And here is the part that should worry every rival on the grid. Carrying that damage, and serving a 5-second penalty on top of it, Hamilton still finishes 4th. Only a handful of seconds off the podium. Think about what that says about the raw pace of that Ferrari. If a wounded car with a penalty attached still ends up knocking on the door of the top 3, how quick was it really before the floor came apart? The answer is uncomfortable, and it points straight back at how much this incident cost him. And the penalty compounds all of it. 5 seconds does not sound like much until you realize how tight the gap to the podium ends up being. Add the time lost to the damaged floor, add the 5 seconds bolted on at the stop, and the podium that Hamilton finishes just short of was almost certainly there for the taking in a clean car. So he is punished twice for the same corner, once by the contact that wrecks his floor, and once by the stewards for a collision his own car caused by losing grip. 2 hits, 1 incident. And he was trying to avoid it the entire time. The Ferrari garage does not even get to breathe after that. During Hamilton's stop under the virtual safety car, he is released and his front right wheel catches one of his own mechanics on the way out of the box. The man is not seriously hurt, but the team is fined €30,000, with 10,000 of it suspended. And here is the detail that keeps the theme alive. The stewards look at the release and rule that Hamilton himself is not at fault. He had the green light. He was cleared to go. Once again, the driver is the one thing in the story that did nothing wrong. And once again, the day still turns against him. Then rewind to Saturday, because none of this happens in isolation. Hamilton crashes at the end of final practice. He loses the rear, hits the barriers, and does real damage to the car. He takes responsibility for it straight away. And at first, that mistake looks like it has nothing to do with Sunday. It has everything to do with Sunday. That crash costs Ferrari the time they needed to finish dialing in the setup. Hamilton goes into qualifying with a car that is not quite where the engineers want it, which leaves him starting further down the grid than his pace deserved, which is exactly what drops him into the traffic where the Russell contact becomes possible. One error on Saturday, 3 separate consequences on Sunday. Out of position on the grid, a desperate opening lap, and then the damage that defines his race. This decision seemed small at the time. It was not. Take away the practice crash, and Hamilton is starting near the front, nowhere near Russell, and the collision that split the paddock never happens at all. Now pull back and look at the other garage, because Mercedes did this to itself in a different way. Ferrari lost time to a driver error, Mercedes lost Russell to the car, and the man who confirms it is the last person you would expect to say it out loud. Toto Wolff stands in front of the cameras after the race and puts the failure squarely on his own team. He says there was an issue on all of the Mercedes engines that left them short of power on the straights, that it bit Russell badly, and that it goes 100% on the team. There is no spin, no attempt to shift the blame. The boss of the leading constructor telling the world that his own car sabotaged his own driver. He goes further. He admits the power problem had already hurt Russell the day before, on Saturday, eating into a chunk of the gap between Russell and his teammate in qualifying. So this was not a one-off glitch that appeared on lap 1. It was a fault that had been quietly costing Russell time across the whole weekend, and it chose the worst possible moment to reach its peak. Russell himself sounds less angry than hollow about it afterward, saying he is almost numb to the disappointment now, that when it happens this often you just get used to it. This is not the voice of a driver who lost a fight on track. It is the mark of a driver who has watched his own equipment fail him one too many times. And that word, numb, is doing a lot of work. You do not become numb to something that happens once, you become numb to a pattern. For a driver sitting third in the championship, inside a car that leads the constructors, to sound that flat about throwing away a strong result tells you this is not the first time the machine has let him down this year. It is just the most public, the most expensive, and the one that finally got caught on a radio channel someone else was listening to. While Russell sits in the gravel, the other Mercedes does something very different. Kimi Antonelli wins the race, and there is a cruel little irony buried in how he does it. Late on, Antonelli comes back at Charles Leclerc for the lead and completes the winning move at the end of the Kemmel Straight, using exactly the deployment down exactly the stretch of road that Russell never had. The same straight that left one Mercedes defenseless hands, the other one the victory. One car had everything working, the other had nothing. Same team, same afternoon, opposite endings, and that contrast is where the championship quietly tilts. Antonelli leaves Spa on 204 points. Hamilton climbs to second on 159. Russell, who scored nothing, drops to third on 154. A single retirement turns what could have been a tight three-way fight into a much steeper hill for the two drivers behind. Antonelli now leads Hamilton by 45 points and Russell by 50, and this is the last race before the summer break, which means that gap does not move for weeks. It just sits there, hardening, while everyone goes home. Step back, and the shape of this title fight is almost surreal. The youngest driver in the Mercedes garage is running away with the championship, 6 wins deep, while the 7-time world champion and the established number 1 both chase from behind. And the thing quietly deciding it is not raw pace between the three of them. It is which of them the car chooses to fail on. On this weekend, it chose Russell. His retirement did not just cost him a result. It handed Antonelli breathing room in a fight that was supposed to be a lot closer than the numbers now suggest. The constructors' table tells the same story from a different angle. Mercedes still leads it on 358 points, comfortably clear of Ferrari, but instead of celebrating a win and a dominant lead, the headlines out of the team are about reliability, about an energy fault, about a furious driver, and a race thrown away. That is how momentum leaks out of a season. Not in one huge failure, but in small ones that arrive at exactly the wrong time. Now go back and listen to that muted radio one more time, and notice who Russell actually blames. Not Hamilton, not the stewards, not Ferrari, his own car. And that is the tell. Drivers who get taken out on lap 1 almost always come out swinging at whoever hit them. Russell does the opposite. His anger points inward, at the battery, at the deployment, at the machine that left him defenseless. From inside that cockpit, he already knew the contact was the last thing that went wrong, not the first. And Hamilton reaches the same conclusion from the other car. He calls it a racing incident. He says he does not think he went in aggressive or misplaced, that it was just an unfortunate scenario that racing throws up. Instead of firing shots at Russell, he talks about sending him a message after the race. Two drivers who were on opposite ends of the same crash, both looking at it and quietly agreeing that the real story is not the one the penalty tells. When the two people involved both argue against the punishment starts to look like the outlier, which brings it all back to the thing the cameras cut. A radio message that would have reframed the entire incident for everyone watching, buried under silence while a 5-second penalty told a cleaner, simpler, and far less accurate version of events. The footage everyone saw showed a driver getting hit and a driver getting punished. The footage almost nobody heard showed a car that had already given up before either of them reached the corner. There is something uncomfortable about how these races reach us. What the world sees is a choice. Which onboard airs, which radio plays, which replay gets shown in slow motion, and which one never runs at all. In this case, the single piece of audio that best explained the whole incident was the piece that stayed silent on the feed the rest of us were watching. Nobody had to hide anything for the story to come out wrong. The default version, the clean and simple one, was already on air. The truer version was sitting on a German broadcast, waiting for someone to go looking for it. The Hungarian Grand Prix is only days away, and it may reveal more than the results ever did. If Mercedes has found and fixed the energy fault, Russell could strike straight back and make Spa look like a bad week and nothing more. But if the pattern holds, on the reliability or on the stewarding, then this is not a closed case. It is the first crack in something bigger, and the next time two cars touch on lap 1, everyone is going to be listening a lot more carefully to the radio they are allowed to hear.